The letter from the man who couldn't hold his son. The veteran's hands were shaking as he wrote the letter. Not from fear. He'd learned to control that in the jungle. The trembling came from something worse. Shame. His name was James Crawford. He was 24 years old. He'd spent 18 months in Vietnam, and he'd been home for 6 months, but he still couldn't hold his son. Every time James tried to pick up Tommy, his 3-year-old boy, the child he'd left as a baby, Tommy would scream and pull away. No, no, scary man. Tommy was afraid of his own father. James looked down at the letter he was writing. The paper was already stained with tears. His handwriting was barely legible, but he had to try. He had to reach out to someone, anyone. He'd tried the VA. They gave him pills. They didn't help. He tried his wife, Sarah. She was patient. She was kind, but she didn't understand. How could she? She hadn't been there. She hadn't seen what he'd seen. He tried his own father. You just need to toughen up, son. Be a man. Your boy will come around. But Tommy wasn't coming around. 6 months. And Tommy still looked at James like he was a monster. So James Crawford, decorated Vietnam veteran, wrote a letter to the only person he thought might understand. Fred Rogers. Dear Mr. Rogers, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you answer letters from grown-ups. But I don't know where else to turn. My name is James Crawford. I'm a veteran. I came home from Vietnam 6 months ago. I have a son. His name is Tommy. He's 3 years old. When I left for Vietnam, Tommy was 8 months old. He was too young to remember me. And now that I'm back, he's afraid of me. I know why. I'm not the same person I was when I left. The things I saw over there, the things I did, they changed me. I have nightmares. I wake up screaming. I can't stand loud noises. I can't be in crowds. And Tommy sees all of that. He sees me flinch when a door slams. He sees me crying in the middle of the night. He sees his mother trying to calm me down, and he's terrified. I've tried everything. I've tried being gentle. I've tried giving him space. I've tried playing with him. But every time I get close, he runs away crying. Yesterday, I tried to hug him. Just a hug. He screamed like I was hurting him. Mr. Rogers, I fought for this country. I did terrible things so that my son could grow up safe. And now I'm home and my son doesn't even want me near him. I don't know what to do. I feel like I lost my boy in that war, even though he's right here in front of me. I watch your show with Tommy sometimes. He loves you. He talks to the TV like you're really there. And I see the way you talk to children. Like they matter. Like their feelings are real. I guess what I'm asking is, do you have any advice? How do I help my son understand that I'm still his father? That I love him even though I'm different now? I'm sorry to bother you with this. I know you're a busy man, but I didn't know who else to ask. Respectfully, James Crawford, Pittsburgh. James mailed the letter with no real hope of a response. Men like Fred Rogers didn't answer letters from broken veterans. They answered letters from children. From families who had it together, not from men who couldn't even hold their own sons without making them cry. But 3 days later, the phone rang. Sarah answered. Hello? Hello, this is Fred Rogers. I'm calling for James Crawford. Sarah's hand went to her mouth. Mr. Rogers? The Mr. Rogers? Yes, is James available? Sarah looked across the room at her husband. James was sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. He'd been like that for an hour. Just sitting, staring, lost in whatever memories were haunting him that day. James, Sarah said softly, there's someone on the phone for you. James didn't respond. James, it's Mr. Rogers. That got his attention. James looked up, confused. What? It's Fred Rogers. On the phone? He's calling for you. James stood up slowly, like he didn't quite believe what he was hearing. He took the phone from Sarah with shaking hands. "Hello? Hello, James. This is Fred Rogers. I received your letter, and I'd like to help if I can." James's throat tightened. He couldn't speak. Fred continued, his voice gentle. "James, would it be all right if I came to visit you? I'd like to meet you and Tommy. No cameras. No crew. Just me. Would that be okay? You want to come here? To my house? Yes, if that's all right with you and Sarah. Why?" James managed. "Why would you do that?" Fred was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made James start crying. "Because you asked for help. And when someone asks for help, I believe we're supposed to show up." Fred Rogers arrived at the Crawford home on a Tuesday afternoon. No television crew. No publicity. Just Fred, in his cardigan, carrying a small bag. Sarah opened the door. She was crying before she even said hello. "Mr. Rogers, I can't believe you're here. I can't believe you came." Fred smiled gently. "Thank you for having me, Sarah. Where's James?" "He's in the backyard. With Tommy. Or trying to be with Tommy." Fred looked through the house to the backyard. Through the sliding glass door, he could see James sitting on a bench. And about 15 feet away, a small boy Tommy playing in a sandbox. Alone. Father and son. In the same space, but completely separate. "May I go out there?" Fred asked. "Of course. Please." Fred walked through the house and out into the backyard. James saw him coming and stood up immediately, wiping his eyes. "Mr. Rogers, I don't know what to say. Thank you for coming." Fred extended his hand. James shook it. His grip was tight. Too tight. The grip of a man holding on for dear life. "Thank you for writing to me, James. That took courage." James laughed bitterly. "Courage? I don't have any of that left." Fred looked at him carefully. "You came home from a war. You're trying to be a father despite everything you've been through. You reached out for help when you needed it. James, that's not a lack of courage. That's exactly what courage looks like." James's face crumpled. He turned away, not wanting Fred to see him cry. Fred looked over at Tommy. The little boy was playing quietly, building something in the sand. Every few seconds, he'd glance over at his father, then quickly look away. "He's afraid of me," James whispered. "My own son is afraid of me." "He's not afraid of you," Fred said gently. "He's afraid of what he doesn't understand." "What's the difference?" "The difference is that fear of the unknown can be healed. We just have to help Tommy understand." James wiped his eyes. "Understand what? That his dad is broken? That I'm not the hero who went away, I'm just this?" Fred turned to face James directly. "James, you're not broken. You're hurt. There's a difference. Broken things can't be fixed. Hurt things can heal. I don't feel like I'm healing. Healing takes time, and it takes help. You're doing the right thing by asking for that help." Fred looked back at Tommy. "May I talk to him?" James nodded, not trusting his voice. Fred walked slowly toward the sandbox. Tommy looked up, eyes wide. But he didn't run. He recognized Mr. Rogers. "Hello, Tommy," Fred said softly, sitting down on the grass near the sandbox, not too close, giving the boy space. "Hi, Mr. Rogers," Tommy whispered. "What are you building?" "A castle." "That's a wonderful castle. You're doing a very good job." Tommy smiled shyly. Fred was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Tommy, can I tell you something?" Tommy nodded. "Sometimes grown-ups go through things that are very hard. And when they go through hard things, they can seem different. They might get sad more easily. They might get scared of things that didn't used to scare them. They might act in ways that seem strange." Tommy was listening intently. Your daddy went through something very hard. He went far away to a place where there was a lot of danger. And he was very brave. But being in that dangerous place for so long changed him a little bit. It made him sad sometimes, and scared sometimes. Tommy looked over at his father, who was still standing by the bench, watching. But here's the most important thing I want you to know. Tommy, even though your daddy might seem different, the love he has for you didn't change. Not even a little bit. He loves you just as much as he did before he went away. Maybe even more. He yells, Tommy said quietly, at night. He scares me. I know. And that must be very frightening for you. But Tommy, your daddy isn't yelling at you. He's having bad dreams about the scary things that happen far away. He's not angry at you. He's just sad about what he saw. Tommy was quiet, processing this. Fred continued. You know what I think? I think your daddy needs you. I think he needs to know that you still love him. Even though he's sad sometimes. Even though he seems different. But I'm little, Tommy said. How can I help? By being exactly who you are. By letting him know you're not afraid. By showing him that you still want to be his boy. Tommy looked at his father again. James was crying openly now, not even trying to hide it. Do you think, Tommy said carefully, he would want to build a castle with me? Fred smiled. I think that's exactly what he wants. More than anything in the world. What happened next, Fred Rogers would later say, was one of the most beautiful things he'd ever witnessed. Tommy stood up from the sandbox. He was scared. You could see it in the way he held himself, in the way he hesitated. But he took a step toward his father, then another. James saw his son walking toward him and froze. He didn't dare move, didn't dare breathe, terrified that if he did anything, Tommy would run away again. Tommy stopped about 5 feet away. Daddy? He said in a small voice. Yes, buddy? James's voice was shaking. Do you want to build a castle with me? James dropped to his knees. The tears were streaming down his face. Yes, I would love that. Tommy took another step closer. Mr. Rogers says you're sad. Because of the bad place. James nodded, unable to speak. Are you sad right now? Yes, James managed. But not because of you. Never because of you. Of you. Tommy looked at his father for a long moment. Then, slowly, carefully, he walked the final few steps and put his small hand on his father's shoulder. It's okay to be sad. Daddy, Mr. Rogers says it's okay. James pulled his son into his arms and held him. For the first time in 6 months, Tommy didn't pull away. He didn't scream. He just let his father hold him. And James Crawford, decorated Vietnam veteran, sobbed into his son's hair. Not from shame this time. From relief. From gratitude. From love. Fred Rogers watched from a distance, tears running down his own face. Sarah came out into the backyard, saw what was happening, and had to sit down. She was shaking. For 10 minutes. James just held Tommy, and Tommy let him. The little boy didn't fully understand what was happening, but he understood enough. His daddy was sad, and his daddy needed him. And that was enough. Fred stayed for 2 hours that afternoon. He sat with James and Tommy and Sarah. He talked to Tommy about feelings, about how grown-ups could be sad and still love you, about how being brave didn't mean you weren't scared. It meant doing things, even when you were scared. He talked to James about healing, about how it was okay to get help, about how being a father didn't mean being perfect. It meant showing up even when it was hard. Before Fred left, James walked him to the door. Mr. Rogers, I don't know how to thank you. You drove all the way here for us. You didn't have to do that. Fred looked at him with those kind, steady eyes. James, you fought for this country. You sacrificed in ways most people will never understand. The least I can do is drive a few hours to help you come home. Really come home. But why? Why do you care about me? About us?" Fred smiled. "Because every person matters, James. Every father matters. Every child matters. And when I can help a father and son find each other again, that's not just important. That's sacred." James's voice broke. "I'm sorry. I'm such a mess." "You're not a mess. You're human. And being human means sometimes we need help. There's no shame in that." After Fred left, James went back out to the backyard. Tommy was still playing in the sandbox. "Tommy?" James said carefully. Tommy looked up. Can I play with you?" Tommy smiled. "Yeah, Daddy, you can help with the castle." James sat down in the sand next to his son. And for the first time in 6 months, they played together. Tommy showed his father how to pack the sand, how to make towers, how to dig a moat. And James, who had learned to fight to survive, to kill, learned something harder. He learned how to be gentle again. Over the next few months, things slowly got better. Tommy didn't magically stop being scared when James had nightmares. But he learned that the nightmares weren't about him. James didn't magically heal from his trauma. But he learned that he could be broken and still be a father. That he could struggle and still be loved. Sarah didn't magically have all the answers. But she learned that sometimes healing happened in small moments. In castles built in sandboxes. In quiet afternoons playing together. James started going to therapy. Real therapy, with a counselor who specialized in veterans. It helped, slowly. But it helped. And once a month, Fred Rogers would call, not to check on Tommy, to check on James. "How are you doing, James?" "Better. Some days are hard, but better." "That's good. Remember, healing isn't linear. Some days will be harder than others. And that's okay. Thank you, Fred, for everything." "You don't need to thank me. I'm just glad you're still fighting. This is a different kind of war. But you're still a soldier. And you're winning." 5 years later, in 1978, James Crawford wrote Fred Rogers another letter. "Dear Fred, I wanted you to know that Tommy started kindergarten this year. He's doing great. He's making friends. He's happy. And the best part? When his teacher asked the class to draw a picture of their hero, Tommy drew me, in my uniform. I cried when I saw it. But they were good tears this time. Fred, 5 years ago, I couldn't hold my son without him screaming. Now he tells people I'm his hero. You did that. You helped us find each other again. I know you didn't do it for recognition. I know you didn't do it for thanks. But I need you to know, you saved my family. Whatever time you took away from your show, from your work, from your own family to come see us, it was worth it. You gave me back my son. I don't have the words to thank you properly, but I'm trying. Tommy asks about you sometimes. He wants to know if Mr. Rogers remembers him. I tell him yes. I tell him that Mr. Rogers cares about every child he meets. Is that true? Do you remember us? I hope so, because we'll never forget you. With gratitude and love, James Crawford. Fred Rogers read the letter in his office. And he cried. Not sad tears, grateful tears. He wrote back immediately. Dear James, of course I remember you. I remember Tommy. I remember that afternoon in your backyard. I remember the courage it took for you to ask for help. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so happy that you and Tommy found your way back to each other. You did the hard work. James, I just helped point you in the right direction. But you're the one who showed up every day. You're the one who kept trying even when it was hard. That's what makes you a hero. Not what you did in Vietnam. What you did in your own backyard. Coming home, really coming home, is sometimes the hardest battle of all. Tommy is lucky to have you as his father. And I'm lucky to have known both of you. With love, Fred. The story of James Crawford and his son Tommy was never broadcast. Fred Rogers never mentioned it in interviews, never used it as an example, never turned it into an episode of his show, because some things, Fred believed, were too sacred for television. Some things were meant to stay private, meant to stay between the people involved. But James told the story. Years later, after Fred had died, he told it at a veterans meeting. When another young father back from Iraq, struggling with PTSD, afraid to hold his own daughter, broke down crying, James sat down next to him and said, "I know. I've been there. But there's hope. Let me tell you about the day Mr. Rogers came to my house." And he told the story of how a man in a cardigan drove to Pittsburgh and sat in a sandbox and helped a father and son find each other again. The young veteran listened and cried and said, "You think I could do that? Find my way back to my daughter?" "I know you can," James said, "because if I could do it, anyone can. You just have to keep trying. And you have to ask for help when you need it." "Who do I ask?" "Mr. Rogers is gone." James smiled. "You ask anyone who'll listen. You ask your family. You ask your friends. You ask the VA. You ask other vets who've been through it. You ask until someone shows up. Did that work for you?" "Yeah," James said. "It did. A man I'd never met drove hours to help me. He didn't do it for recognition. He didn't do it for publicity. He did it because I asked, and because he believed every person mattered." The young veteran was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I want to meet my daughter. Really meet her. Not just exist in the same house. Actually be her father." "Then that's what you'll do," James said. "It won't be easy. It won't be fast. But you'll do it. One sandbox at a time." Tommy Crawford grew up. He went to college. Got married. Had children of his own. And when his first son was born, Tommy named him Fred. After Mr. Rogers? His wife asked. "Yeah," Tommy said, holding his newborn son. "He saved my family. I want to make sure his name lives on." When Fred Rogers died in 2003, Tommy Crawford drove to Pittsburgh for a memorial service. He brought his son, little Fred, who was 5 years old. And he told his son about the day a man in a cardigan came to his house and taught him that it was okay for grown-ups to be sad. That being different didn't mean being broken. That love could heal things that seemed impossible to fix. "Mr. Rogers did that for you?" Little Fred asked. "Yeah, buddy. He did. Was he a superhero?" Tommy thought about that for a moment. Then he said, "No. He was something better. He was someone who showed up when people needed him, even when it was hard, even when there was nothing in it for him. He just showed up." "I want to be like that," little Fred said. "Then that's what we'll do," Tommy said. "We'll show up for people who need us, just like Mr. Rogers showed up for me." The story of James Crawford is not famous. It's not in the documentaries. It's not in the biographies. It's not part of the official Fred Rogers legacy. But it should be, because it reveals something essential about who Fred Rogers was when no cameras were rolling. He didn't just talk about helping people. He did it quietly, privately, without recognition. He drove hours to sit in a backyard and help a veteran reconnect with his son. He spent an afternoon in a sandbox, teaching a 3-year-old that his father was still his father. Even though war had changed him, he made phone calls for months, checking on a family that no one else knew about. He didn't do it for his show. He didn't do it for his image. He didn't do it for credit. He did it because a man asked for help. And Fred Rogers believed that when someone asks for help, we're supposed to show up. No cameras, no crew, no recognition. Just showing up. Because it's right. That's what real kindness looks like. Not the kind that gets filmed. Not the kind that gets applauded. Not the kind that gets rewarded. The kind that happens in backyards, in sandboxes, in quiet conversations that no one else will ever hear. The kind that changes lives, that heals families, that brings fathers and sons back together. Fred Rogers didn't just change television. He changed individual lives, one person at a time, one family at a time, one afternoon at a time. And James Crawford's family is just one example. There are others, dozens, maybe hundreds. Families Fred helped in private. People he showed up for without ever telling anyone, because that's who Fred Rogers was. Not just when cameras were rolling, but all the time. He was someone who showed up.